Okay, excellent. So we're 2 minutes past. So I think it's a comfortable time to get stuck in. So yeah, I'd like to introduce you to Anol, who will be doing today's session, and we'll be covering a deep dive into lead generation, demand generation, and lead nurturing. So Anol Bhattacharya, I hope that I pronounced your surname correctly. Apologies if not.
Almost.
Um, is CEO of GetIT or GetIT, and they provide marketing solutions for technology companies and have been helping corporations get their messages across with speed, accuracy, and impact since 1997. So Anil himself has 20 years worth of experience as a consultant within B2B marketing, digital strategy, lead generation, demand generation, lead nurturing, social media, and user experience, both functionality and design. So thank you for joining us. And without further ado, I will go straight into the Q&A. So this session is going to be a Q&A style. So we've got some questions that we've prepared. I did want to mention that if anybody's got any questions that they would like to ask Anil directly, please pop them into the questions and polls tab that you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, and then I can ask him accordingly. Right, so question number one. What are the best tools and technology every business or marketing department should be using for lead and demand generation today?
Right. I believe you are expecting me to answer something like that you need marketing automation integrated with CRM, lead scoring framework, analytics tool, um, something like 3.5 data scientists. But reality is you can have all these things and still fail. Two essential component of any successful marketing communication program, be that for lead generation or brand communication, are empathy and strategy. That's the biggest two tools. Let me unpack that a little bit. Empathy means how well you know your prospects. How many decision makers are there in the buying center? What are their pain points or aspirations? What problems are you solving? Where do they find their resources? Who they trust? Now, taking that input, mapping that with the USP of your product or solution, then building the story is the strategy planning. All the tools and techniques will make your life easier and make it more effective. But without empathy and strategy, tools alone cannot solve your marketing challenges.
Okay, no, great, thank you for
That
explaining.
completely subverted your question. I'm sorry about that, Nikita.
No worries at all. So question number two, what are your techniques and processes for creating high impact lead and demand generation, especially, honing in on in the B2B sort of environment that we live in today?
Sure. Um, a high impact lead generation means we should be measuring contribution to the revenue pipeline. That means we are talking about quality here, not quantity. The first step is to get the buying center profiles and personas right. I was just talking about that, and that is just not a theoretical exercise. Marketers need to work with sales, analyze their existing customer behavior, examine the third-party data to create the personas. And third-party data, I'm just not mentioning intent data because that's soon to be over. But at least in my case, it's for the technology side is the technographic data. We look at that, what kind of company is using what kind of technology. Um, I will mention one tool we use, and that is a very cost-effective tool to use, at least to find the digital media consumption patterns of your prospects. That is SparkToro, and this is a freemium software. You can use that even without paying anything. Now, after creating those personas, create your buyer's journeys, not from the marketing or sales point of view, but from the prospect's point of view. In most cases, the buyer's journey is marketing and sales stages in disguise, like, top of the funnel, MQL, SQL. These are your lead definitions, not the stages of a buyer's journey. After forming that, then map the content with the buying stages, then plan the workflow of marketing automation, lead score, and outreach planning, etc. But one thing to keep in mind, although we represent the journey, buyer's journey, in a linear model, in reality, every B2B procurement goes through the multiple cycles of looping back and forth between the stages. We like to have a structure. That's why we like to divide the leads into like MQL, SQL. But the reality is unpredictable and unstructured. And most of the time, we face this challenge when we have the sprint run campaigns or short term campaigns. No matter how sophisticated our content strategies or smart the creatives are, it is very difficult to align the short term campaign with the complete procurement journey of B2B buyers. And we need to work towards always on campaign and plan for multiple exit and entry points to generate high quality leads.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Um, so the third question that I've got for you here is an interesting one for me personally as well. So, is offline marketing and outbound lead generation dead?
Uh, Two are different topics, but neither is dead, thankfully.
Mhm.
It's us, the agencies and consultants are too eager to declare something dead and create a talking point. Nothing is actually dead. Offline marketing, like trade shows, events, seminars, in traditional form, are on hold for practical reasons. We all know that. When we get over the pandemic, will it come back in the same form and intensity as before? I don't know. There might be a rise of hybrid conferences, like both online and face to face. That's a very much possibility because it's newfound tool for marketers that at the same time they can cover a bigger geographic area. Let's come to the outbound marketing, and it is going on. I don't know. From time to time, I think like who talk about that outbound marketing is dead. Digital advertisement purchase is going out of this universe. Like it is regularly growing in number. Um, uh, Only in believing in inbound marketing will get you the result. Not even the people who coined the term believe that. I mean, HubSpot is responsible for coining the term. They do a lot of outbound marketing. They do paid media. They do reach out, and they even have telesales. So I don't think outbound marketing is going anywhere. The form and formats and new channels are emerging. Some channels are dying, and that's fine. But outbound marketing will be always there.
Mhm. Okay. Um, So, question number four, what's the best way to qualify leads? Because it can really vary business to business, an MQL to SQL, for example. Even the definitions of that can vary depending on who you are within the business. So, how do you sort of tackle that one, and what's the best way to qualify the lead?
Right. It's a great question. Let's first talk about how typically leads are qualified with a marketing automation tool. I'll just take it as a granted that at this day and age, if you are serious about your B2B marketing, you already implemented some form of marketing automation tool. So we are looking at three types of signals. One is the demographic data, for example, which job role matches our target persona. Second is the firmographic data. Is the company right fit for our product, either in size or in the company, the industry, etc.? And third is the behavioral data. That is using the engagement and content consumption as a proxy of interest. Now, we need all these three. Also, we need the visibility of the relationship between the account and lead data. And that's something sometimes we miss out. Are we getting multiple leads with different job profiles from a single company? Are those leads represent the buying center as per our definition, what we talked about a little while ago, to define the whole buying center. Are we have the all touch points? Are there any gaps? Now, with most marketing automation tool, either you can create some custom report to get that relationship between account level data and a lead level data. But even if you can't do that, you can easily do with any kind of analytics tool, run a short query in SQL term and come up with that correlation, what we do in a customized dashboard. And that's the most important part of leveling this two type of data set and coming up with the lead qualification. Lead score is completely flexible. We can do anything, right? We can assign any lead score to anything and put in the lead score threshold. But most important thing is learning from the experience and improving the system as we go along. So I will say that's the only way to do that. There is no general silver bullet for this problem.
Yeah. But how do you, this is actually not the next question. I'm just thinking
Sure.
off the back of what you mentioned. So sometimes trying to, when you're working with the sales department, and you're explaining the process of adding a numeric value to a lead and how that plays part in a wider process, it's quite difficult to explain. How do you get the sales team on board with lead scoring?
Oh, that's the very first thing to do is to get that alignment right, and that is a crucial point to have that sales and marketing alignment. I know Robert was talking about ABM, but that's not only for ABM. Any kind of sales, if you do not have a common handshake there, in fact, I will go one step forward and say that there is no handover. There is a continuum process, like, sales should be even involved where while you are nurturing the leads, and then looking at that and defining that from that buying center defining that should be a common understanding and touch point between the marketing and sales, so there is no confusion going forward. But it's always required that there is a follow up when there is something, say, moved from marketing automation to the CRM system, and there is a follow up of that. Both need to be taking responsibility, marketing and sales department, that this needed a follow up and what is the result. And based on those results, seeing the pattern, using the analysis tool to counter check and optimize the system, that it is an iterative process. But at the very basic of it, we need to have that alignment to start with to have any kind of marketing generated leads to be treated properly.
Mm. Okay, yeah, that's always been the area that I've struggled with, really. So that's interesting. Right, so question number 5: describe your power methods to track lead demand generation.
That's a really big topic, and I wish I had like half an hour to talk about that only, because that's one of the main thing I do. So and I will talk about the basic part of it, and it will go a little geeky. I apologize for that, but then I will break it down. So um, that's my favorite topic: measurement and optimization. Let's talk about the challenge first, before talking about the solution. B2B marketing departments do not have a big data problem, but somewhat a fragmented data problem. Ad tech platforms or media agencies reports are separate, web analytics data stands alone in a corner, marketing automation data in another, and CRM data stored in a different room. So no one is talking to each other. And the biggest problem to solve this, and now it is possible. So there are multiple tools like Panoply or Stitch. We use Panoply for API integration and bringing the all data from different places and storing it in the Redshift, Amazon Redshift server or data warehouse. And then we run different visualization programs on that to bring all the data together. So we are bringing data from media dashboards like LinkedIn, Twitter, connecting marketing automation platform like Eloqua, Marketo, and Perdot. And then we are also bringing the CRM data here, right? So what is happening at the end, and with this uniform dashboard, we call it single source of truth, you're not only measuring the, say, media performance or a content performance on a just quantity level, on the top of the funnel level. You are looking at the complete journey, how it is going through the whole revenue pipeline and finally contributing to the actual revenue. So you can go back, and obviously this requires time. You need to give that time, at least throughout the duration of your sales cycle, normal sales cycle. But at the end of it, what you can start seeing the pattern, which media outreach or which type of content is giving you the maximum yield in terms of actual dollars and cents, not only just the vanity metrics. Now that's a very short description of a very complex process. I know things might be a little confusing, but that's already implemented for multiple clients of ours. And I will strongly recommend for the marketers in the room to check those tools out. Nikita, you are on mute.
Sorry, apologies.
No worries.
I was just saying thank you. We've got one question from Andrew, who says, Anol, what do you expect to see from an approach that would make you want more information and take notice?
What do you expect to see from an approach that will make you take more information and take notice? I think that's a very cryptic question, but I will try to define it as I believe I'm getting it. So one of the type of touch point or content we are focusing on nowadays is buyers enablement content, and means if you look at the content proliferation going on right now in B2B space is too much. So like everyone want to be thought leader and stuff like that. So we try to do that, changing that thing a little bit and trying to develop things like benchmark report generators, ROI calculators, and stuff like that. And that's giving us much better engagement compared to that normal B2B things like, ebook download, infographic engagement, etc., etc. So those are the content which is bias enablement content are really working out well for us. Also, in I will go one step backwards and say that we started defining the buyer's journey in a very different way than what we used to for last I say 3-4 years, and that also impacted the our data gathering process as well as taking more informed decision to what to run as a campaign, when to refresh a campaign, when to change a content, etc. So I don't know that answer your question or not, or you are asking something complete different, but just answer that.
I think that answered it very well. Okay, so if anybody else has any other questions, just like Andrew, feel free to pop that into the chat box. So I've got a few other questions here
Go
for
ahead.
you. What type of marketing, in your experience, generates the highest ROI?
Good marketing. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that's the session you just attended and came here. The ABM is the way to go. I will say that most of the cases, what we are seeing right now, that account-based marketing are getting much more sophisticated in terms of um, what content, personalization of the content, etc. And I will just give an example what we are running in APAC for Google, and this is a personalization engine for the cloud. So it's not only personalizing just one content or two. Once you go into the content hub and download a content and fill up the details of you, the whole content hub change into or modified into that catering to just to you. So your job role, your industry, and etc. So that is obviously it's Google, so marketing response is much more higher. We don't expect that for anyone else, but I will say that I've never seen that kind of engagement, that we send an email and there is 71% open rate. That is only happening because of that very laser focused personalized content.
Hmm. Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
Would it
Thank-
be possible? All right. Um, yeah, I mean, what tool you want? We have a little bit of time, but Nikita. Can we just talk about a little bit
yeah,
about
of course. Yeah,
tools, right?
absolutely.
So, first tool I mentioned
Oh,
is
sorry, Anil, just a quick one, just in case for those who haven't seen the question. Somebody's just asked whether we're able to just dive into the tools mentioned during the presentation.
Oh,
So
right. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's
So
okay.
let's talk about the tools we use. So let's start from the beginning. And some of the tools are not very specialized tool. Say, for instance, if you're looking at you defined your personas, you have the business card, and then you are looking at the what is the total addressable market size. You can use LinkedIn Campaign Manager, or even better, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I know I'm asking marketing people to take up an account of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but that really works well to define the total addressable market. After doing that, you can use something like SparkToro. If you can't note it down, just drop a note and I will explain. I will send a mail or something like that. I'm not using a slide. I can show you. So SparkToro is Randy Fishkin, who used to founder of Moz, or ACO Moz. He created that tool, and that's a great tool for searching for the digital consumption pattern of your target audience. So you can search by what kind of hashtag they use, which podcast they listen to, which website they visit, etc., etc. So that is a great input, not only for your defining the persona. You can actually go back and create your whole outreach strategy based on that. So that's one tool. Now, in between all the other things well, like marketing automation, CRM, but layering on top of that, what we are doing, as I mentioned, panoply.io. If you have access to a tech savvy colleague or agency, then that's a great tool. Otherwise, another thing you can try is called Stitch. So these are all API integrators. That means you can bring data from any kind of, okay, most of the tools and services, from a media side, from LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, or from your marketing automation, your CRM. All these platforms data you can bring in and mash it together, and then from there you can project that in any kind of visualization tool. So couple of visualization tool we use, obviously, Tableau is one of the thing. Another one, obvious, it's completely free, is Google Dashboard. We created some great dashboards just using free Google Dashboard. So that is the representation of that. And that completely changed the game of how marketers perceive the data. Biggest problem of marketers face, that okay, there is this media, this is the impression, this is the click through, and this is the Google Analytics telling us, this is the marketing automation telling us, and this is the salespeople telling us from the Salesforce. So how to bring that together and see end to end the buyer's journey in real time? That's the panoply.io and Sketch. That is, these two are the good tools to look at. Now,
Okay.
yeah, so should I go forward, or any
Yeah,
other
no,
question?
no, of course.
All right.
That's
Then,
okay.
if you want to take one step more sophisticated use of data, then you need to bring something like AIML. So we are using those for very specific purpose. So one of the thing we are using for large content repositories like Content Hub for AWS or Google, we are using the ML to churn out the patterns of what are um, the effective content format and sequence. Like, one thing I can tell you, that like for say Google, we found out that for CIOs, the subject line of the email should be within 68 to 72 characters. Now, this is came down for just analyzing thousands of data patterns using AIML tools. So that's one thing. Another thing, we found out that CXOs like to open email sent on Sundays. How? I don't know, but that's the data pattern telling us. Sequence of content, what works at what stage, that also we are getting from AIML. So there are multiple different tools we use. So if you are more interested to know that, you can just drop me a note, and I can send you the whole list of tools to try out.
Yeah, no, brilliant. That's a very comprehensive list and some new tools there that I've never heard of either. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. So we've got 2 minutes left. So I'm just going to ask the last question. But whilst you're answering, I might interrupt as the session will shut in 2 minutes. So when does a lead turn into a prospect, and how can lead scoring help in this process?
I think we kind of partially covered that when the lead turns into a prospect. First
Mhm.
of all, it can be from the very beginning, it can be a prospect. It's how you look at it. So if it is, say, you are trying to sell a cloud solution, and a target company's CIO filled up the form to download that, immediately that's a prospect, because by the persona data and the firmographic data shoot up the lead score, right? You need to more focus on that and think about different ways to approach that particular lead. On other case, it's both firmographic, demographic, then going into that, how that person consuming or interacting with your content. That's one. And also within that account, how many peoples are consuming. So it's not a single size fit all. I can't give you that with this and this checked, it will be done. You need to start with something lead scoring threshold going forward, and then map it against your strategy and constantly iterate that.
Mm. All right, lovely. Thank you. So that's ended in a good time. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. And for everybody else on the line, the next session, which will be in 20 seconds, is with Alison Pavitt from Pebble. So join us on the other side. Thank you once again, Anil. Bye bye.
Thanks, Nikita. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.